Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive organiser, writer and historian, and here on my YouTube page I also like to make simple videos about all sorts of different things which interest me. If you're a regular viewer of mine who happens to be waiting for the next videos I want to do, which I said would be coming out in early March, don't worry, they should start getting released very, very soon. I just need to take care of some nonsense first. Just before I took my little break recently, unfortunately I got sucked into an exchange with an aspiring React streamer named Alec Gunter, who completely failed to understand the point of why I do all those videos about how to identify political dog whistles. Originally, Gunter did a piece very lazily just watching one of my dog whistles videos, while pausing occasionally to bellow that he doesn't get it, or to insult my appearance, or my clothes, or my background, or how I present to camera, or just to call me an asshole for no reason. Then I did a video of my own the next day, really spoon-feeding him an explanation, because he clearly needs it, which he spat the dummy about, and got all pissy because I explained why he was wrong and why him live streaming is not political organising. Now, because Mr. Gunter isn't the type to admit he's wrong or concede fault, and despite the fact I haven't been online the last month, ever since our brief interaction, he's been harassing me quite a bit. Today now, I want to explain what Gunter has been doing publicly, and not so publicly, in an effort to try and harangue me the past few weeks. I don't want to spend too much time on it, because frankly, Alec Gunter isn't worth paying that much attention to. But what he's been doing, unfortunately, does need to be acknowledged. If, incidentally, you're someone wondering why I didn't make this video sooner, it's because, like I said, I was going on a break. And when I say I'm going on a break, I mean it. And my schedule is not beholden to anyone else's whims. But, just to recap, after our last little back and forth, Alec Gunter was evidently so incensed about the fact I could tell him precisely why he was wrong about, in this case, how to spot reactionary dog whistles. He immediately began sending me emails every day. In the description of all my videos, I have an email address there I'm typically happy to take questions at. That's fine. But then the day after I'd last mentioned Gunter, this turned up in my inbox. He reaches out to me, claiming to want to have a good faith dialogue, and saying he knows he comes across like a meathead, in his words. I didn't respond to it at all. Frankly, since by the time he'd sent this plea that I meet him halfway, he's already done 2 videos going to great lengths to call me an arsehole who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I just don't want to talk to him. I don't care if Gunter acts all sheepish and apologetic behind the scenes, if he's going to boisterously attack me on his daily live streams. I'm not interested in having a dialogue with him. So, I simply don't respond. Within 48 hours, he sent another email. Hey man, just following up on this, I also left a comment on your video, would like to hear back soon. Now, word to the wise, if you ever have to send 2 back-to-back messages or say, would like to hear back soon, she's just not interested in you, mate. Best to leave it alone. Guy clearly feels I owe him some sort of response, but I actually don't. Then, 48 hours later, I get another one. You have 5 days, dude. Reply before then or I'll be going live with what I found. Now at this point, I had woken up to an email from Mr. Gunter enough days in a row that from then on, I wouldn't just ignore these. All future emails he might send would now go straight to the spam folder. I don't know or really care if after this he sent 0, 1, or 100 more emails, because I wasn't even going to see them. And as an aside, Anyone who's ever been messaged by a cishet guy who wants something will recognize this pattern. They go from flattery to entitled impatience to outright threats in typically the span of about 3 messages. It won't be the biggest thing I'll be getting into in this video, but just keep it in mind. After the last time I responded to Gunter publicly, he was immediately emailing me to try and present himself as apologetic, and I wasn't interested in the least. I didn't want to talk to him, plus, like I said, I was on break. Not that I should even need to justify why I don't want to talk to someone who I only became aware of because he decided to play my videos on his live stream so that he could denigrate my appearance and call me an arsehole and be wrong about the topic I was explaining. Now, around about this same time, I was alerted to a couple of YouTube community text posts and comments Gunter started leaving all over the place, including on his page and mine. Take a good look at this, wherein Gunter basically restates a few of his emails in this more public way, threatening imminent retribution. Interestingly, he claims here that he tried to get in contact with me in a number of ways. First, he mentions that he tried via email. True, although he does leave out any mention of the fact he was practically begging me to meet him halfway by calling himself a meathead and acting all self-effacing. Okay, odd, but whatever. Then he said he tried to get in contact with me through Instagram. That's an outright lie, and it's not even a lie for any clear purpose. I do have Instagram. I even link it in the description of my videos next to my contact email. So it's not that weird that someone who might want to contact me would do so that way, if they wanted to. But it is categorically untrue that Alec Gunter messaged me on there, despite what he's posted publicly. He hasn't messaged me at all. He hasn't commented on anything of mine on Instagram. And if he says he's tried to, he's lying. Next, this post of his says he tried to get a hold of me via the 4chan LGBT board. That's a lie, because that's not a thing you can do. It's been clear from the outset of his interactions with me that Gunter doesn't know the first thing about this place where reactionary memes come from, but I'm guessing he watched the video of mine I made just before I took my break, where I talk about the online culture of ironic image boards, and I do mention the queer subset of 4chan. And, without knowing the first thing about how an anonymous image board works, is now claiming to have tried to get in contact with me on there, because I guess he has a vague idea it's something I use occasionally? But messaging someone on 4chan is not a thing. There aren't accounts or ways to contact specific people on an image board like that. I feel like Mr. Gunter might be more familiar with something like Reddit, because even on that quasi-anonymous site, you can at least direct message other accounts, but no part of 4chan is like that. So, I don't know what he thinks he means by, I tried to get in touch with this person via a 4chan board, because that's not a thing. You gotta figure he's relying on his audience to likely not know any better, or just take his word for it when he makes something up like that, because it just doesn't make any sense to someone familiar with the subject matter. Now, this alone, the fact he's been running around in the week since I took my break, lying about how he tried to get in touch with me, isn't really that important itself. But again, keep it in mind, I'll come back to this later. But he'll soon use the supposed fact he tried to get in touch with me via all these means, but the fact I didn't respond, as a way to suggest I'm somehow nefarious. Just keep it in mind for now. Alec Gunter lies. He lies in his public statements when he doesn't get what he wants behind closed doors, and his self-serving public statements afterwards seem to follow this pattern of tell a basic truth you omit details from, that he emailed me, then back that claim up by embellishing it with something that could easily be true, but isn't, that he contacted me via Instagram, then embellish that lie even further by making something up out of whole cloth that's just plain ridiculous, the 4chan thing. Keep this pattern in mind, because it will come up again in a big way. Just keep it in mind for now, that's all I'm saying. Now, what was that imminent retribution Gunter was threatening to release while I was away? I imagine you might be wondering. Well, the man just can't get over the fact I made him look like a chump twice by this point, and about a week on from all his emails and comments claiming to have tried to get in contact with me, Alec Gunter puts on a 5-hour-plus long live stream, a large chunk of which is all about me, and during the course of this live stream, Gunter does and says some pretty unsavory stuff. And he also uses his runtime here to throw out quite a few accusations and innuendos regarding me and my personal character, which I'd like to get into and demonstrate how they're all very spurious in a little bit. But first, I want to address what I can tell is the crux of why Gunter made his big live stream. Bear with me for a moment. See, Gunter thinks of the live streaming he does as a form of political organising. It isn't, of course, but he thinks it is. And funnily enough, as far as I can tell, the cause Gunter thinks he's organising in support of appears to just be helping the Democrat Party over there in the US win elections at like the state level or something. As an actual leftist, I don't think that's a particularly great or productive goal, necessarily, and I don't think it's the best use of anyone's time. But hey, who knows? If you keep jerking off Joe Biden enough, maybe, just maybe, we'll all get labour unions and abortion rights, and those 20,000 Gazan kids will just come back to life. Who knows? Anyway, Gunter launches into this live stream talking about me very unusually. And first of all, remember, he began the interaction between us weeks back now by wrongly trying to attack me for explaining how to identify reactionary dog whistles. He doesn't have anything substantive to say when I called him out for being wrong last time, and now he's silently ditched the topic entirely, and he's moved on to having pure personal grievance with me. Now, because Gunter's livestream is very long and time is precious, I'm not going to go through and break down every single thing he says line by line, but I am going to, at least briefly, hit all the major points of contention I found by jumping through it, as well as give you a bunch of overarching reasons why everything Gunter says about me is some real shonky bullshit. And trust me, it gets way more outlandish than you're expecting. No joke, no moralizing, but I think he was drinking quite heavily as he put all this together, which might go a ways away to explaining why that is. But we'll get to that when we get there. For now, let's just start at the start. The most telling thing from all of this live stream, what really clued me into what Gunter was doing here, comes towards the beginning of his long-winded rambling about me. See, because he's abandoned the notion of actually responding to any work or video of mine, Gunter can't just, bring up a video and respond to it or commentate over it or anything. Because, as we're about to see, he wants to attack me personally. So in order to do so, he begins by refamiliarizing his audience with who I am, telling his side of the story, of course, and how he just had to make 2 videos calling me an asshole who looks like I can't take metaphorical punches, otherwise my presence is somehow going to make the online left look too left or too intense or too Jewish or whatever his problem with me is. He's setting me up as the villain of the piece. And then he basically reiterates the untrue story about trying to contact me through various means. Again, he's got no clear reason to lie, but he does, so I'll just let it hang in there. Because after that, this is where it starts to get interesting. One of the first few things Gunter does on his live stream is pull up on his computer the website of this lefty newspaper I occasionally write for. Here's a brief clip.
Out, John David Card is a published author. Can you believe that? He is a journalist as well as a published author. So this is his profile in independent Australia. John Card. John David Card is a writer, historian, and anarchist activist.
Now, first of all, that is my author's profile over on Independent Australia, and I wrote all the articles on that page. And I also stand by all of them, including and especially the most recent one, very unabashedly critical of this country's government's military support of Israel, for instance. But why does Gunter bring this website up? Well, he's not going to engage with or respond to anything I've actually written over there. And curiously, I've never once linked to or even mentioned that paper or the fact I write for it. Not once have I mentioned that on this YouTube channel or on any of my social media. And I'm not a famous journalist, and that paper is essentially just a small niche regional outlet. So you actually have to go looking for it to find it. Kind of really weird of Gunter to bring this up then, especially when he isn't going to engage with any of the articles I've actually written there, for instance. And after he just brings this website up on screen and essentially just shows it off to his viewers for a few minutes, he moves on to the next thing. And I'll get to that next thing in a minute, and it's a doozy. But let's just have a quick think about why he's done this odd move with the newspaper website first. Now, if you're just having internet beef with someone, there's basically only one reason to randomly say right at the start of a video you're making about them, hey, this person who I'm telling you not to like has multiple ways you can contact them, and here's somewhere they publish their work. I can see straight through the fact that Gunter's intention here is to have his viewers and his fans or whatever try and harass me by way of spamming my email and my social media and annoying the paper I often write for. You might think that's a bit of a reach, but what if I could point out it's a large part of Gunter's whole MO? See, it's not like I make this sort of claim idly. I've picked up on the fact before that Gunter clearly thinks anything he can do from the comfort of his computer is actual organising. And he's very proud of the fact he's picked up now over 10,000 subscribers to his YouTube page. He'll be the first to tell you he's built up a great community, because these guys are supposedly very politically engaged people, and they love to interact with the content Gunter puts out. To that end, Alec Gunter will regularly use the YouTube community text posts page to make calls to action, like these two, for instance, which were both made around the same time he did this stream about me. Now, honestly, a lot of us, myself included perhaps, aren't going to shed any tears if some GOP stronghold city council gets a bunch of calls from terminally online liberals just trying to waste their time. But let's be frank about what this means. Alec Gunter is happy to name a target for his audience to go after. He does so very explicitly. And his audience does go after the targets he names. He says as much here. Again, on just his YouTube community tab, in the follow-up post he made to the last two I showed you. I don't know if the YouTube police would approve if they knew he was doing this sort of thing, but either way, it is what it is. And I, for one, have no interest in calling it into the admins. As far as I'm concerned, ACAB does include internet moderators, and anyways, I prefer to solve my problems without having to go crying to the cops. Anyway, we've got Gunter himself here, proclaiming how proud he is to have a subscriber count now in the 5-digit figure range. And he'll readily boast that his audience is so engaged, he can even get them to care enough about the local school board elections or whatever in some bumfuck nowhere town that they're willing to ring them up enough to make a big difference. I maintain that merely annoying some random office secretary over the phone or through the internet isn't actually political organising. But it is an activity Alec Gunter does definitely encourage his 10,000 plus viewers to do once he suggestively puts the contact details of someone he doesn't like in a video or a post. Now, I might have just ended the video here. The video could just have been me saying Alec Gunter has lied about how he's contacted me, and then he implicitly told his viewers to flood my contact email, my Instagram DMs, and the place I write for. And yes, for the record, over the past few weeks I have gotten quite a few very nasty emails, and all of a sudden I've been put on quite a few mailing lists for some reason. But, like I said, this live stream Gunter did went on for hours, and he uses a lot of this time to basically shit-talk me on camera for a while in some of the strangest ways possible. Please forgive me when I say I wasn't going to sit down and go through the whole thing with a fine-toothed comb, but once I had seen the contact details and newspaper section, I could sense the general direction the video was going to be going. So I ended up just skipping through an archived version of the stream VOD some enterprising stranger reached out and sent to me to take some rudimentary notes. Running through what I saw quickly, the whole rest of the stream is just Gunter reaching for straw after straw, trying to imply I'm either morally bad for some unspecific reasons, or that I'm bad optics for the entire global online left-wing community, because of what my YouTube videos look like, I guess. He doesn't really have a clear through line, and it is my personal speculation, judgment-free, again, that I think he was drinking prior to this stream, because it comes across kinda weird, even for him, and even for someone doing a 5-hour live stream. Either that, or maybe he just has the intellect and prudent judgment of a complete lush, even under regular circumstances. But, not too long into the stream, first he decides to go back and watch one of my older videos. One where I'm talking about non-binary gender identities. And Gunter, for some reason, spends a while watching this video of mine and getting really weird about it. Mainly just watching a short bit of the video, then pausing to loudly do a transphobic talking point over the top. Here's a couple snippets of what I'm talking about. In the following clip, I'm talking about how, not to get too 2015 Tumblr on us all, but if anyone asks in progressive spaces, I would describe my sense of identity as a soft sort of non-binary. Any pronouns, but I do prefer they, them, but not necessarily to the exclusion of the others. Take a look.
The fact that he is willing and able to take on any identification he wants in the moment if it seems advantageous at that time. Is he allowed to do that? Sure, I guess. But why would you admit to that? Why would you go around saying to people, yeah, you know, I pretend to be trans or non-binary when it suits my needs?
Now, for all the stereotypes about how sensitive us gender weirdos are, I'm not actually going to need to have a cry about it or anything if you think everything I said about gender just now was some sort of made-up nonsense. And I don't even bring this sort of stuff up during the 99 social interactions out of 100 where I just look like a regular guy, or I'm not in an overtly leftist space with other 20-something gender weirdos and pronouns people. Here on the left, though, we generally do try and respect other people's gender identities. And at the end of the day, we understand that the identities people profess are personal things, and basically accept that people's identities are valid, sometimes if only just because they are what people profess. But anyway, after hearing me say all that for the first time in an older video of mine, and openly me stating my any pronouns personal stance, Gunter essentially just throws up his hands and goes, well, I guess he can do that, but it's pretending to be non-binary? Let's hear it again.
The fact that he is willing and able to take on any identification he wants in the moment if it seems advantageous at that time. Is he allowed to do that? Sure, I guess. But why would you admit to that? Why would you go around saying to people, yeah, I pretend to be trans or non-binary when it suits my needs?
I don't even know what to say here. Here we have the supposed ally, Alec Gunter, cishet, former conservative, who's decided that he should go around policing non-binary people's identities. Let's be perfectly clear, if Gunter is anywhere near the progressive he claims to be, he should have no problem agreeing that, at the end of the day, I am non-binary. And all the proof of that I need is that I earnestly say so. And for what it's worth, I don't get the impression that Gunter is anywhere near the lefty he claims to be. I think he's just a run-of-the-mill, self-interested, cishet schlub who's figured out that mediocre white guys can always take a stab at an internet career if they learn how to use a standing mic and say all the political streamer buzzwords they picked up from watching a Vouch video a time or two. I think we got a little slip of his mask here on gender issues. All I know is, in the next clip I got from the same segment, he reacts to me talking about how turf-run spaces are typically bad. Gunter immediately brings up bathrooms, despite the fact I didn't mention them, then uses this to literally just do a Fox News tier talking point that people sometimes act trans just so they can sneak into women's bathrooms. Here it is. You're perfectly able to say whatever you need to subvert exclusionary spaces.
And what he just said right there is that if he wants to go peek in a woman's restroom, all he has to do is say, I am transgender, I'm a trans femme. Why would you say that? Optics, man.
First of all, trans people, binary or otherwise, aren't beholden to this man's sense of optics, no matter how hard he yells at you about it. Also, does Alec Gunter understand what being non-binary is? Because he seems to think I'm a trans woman. And as an aside, if he does think that, why has he been calling me him literally every time he's talked about me? Like, seriously, what the fuck is he doing here? It's genuinely disgusting to hear the bathroom libel, and coming from this supposed ally, no less. As of the time I'm recording this, I think it still hasn't even been a week since the most recent high-profile instance in the US alone of a non-binary person literally being assaulted and killed in a public bathroom, evidently just over transphobia. Alec Gunter is ready, willing, and able to parrot the reactionary line that, like, Fox News type people want to claim people are trans just to sneak into bathrooms. He's repeating the thing that literally gets people killed. And remember, he's saying all these disgusting things about me to try and impugn my character just because I made him look stupid about dog whistles. I'm thoroughly disgusted by Mr. Gunter's transphobia. So let's just keep clicking through this slog of a live stream to see the next thing he does. Now, before I get into what Gunter does next, for context, a few years ago, I wrote a novella called People Mover. Here's a picture of it with a dog for scale. I don't believe it's available for purchase in paperback online anymore, but I have had a PDF copy of an early draft of this book available for free on my personal website for a while now. And incidentally, the first act of this book concerns a girl hitchhiking through rural Montana. I swear to God, Gunter spends like 15 to 20 odd minutes just listlessly reading the PDF of this book on stream, while occasionally going, actually, and saying there should be an extra comma or something here and there. Then he gets into mugging directly to camera, as if to say, this story about a girl hitchhiking, as in occasionally getting a lift from male truck drivers, is something only a real pervert would write, because he thinks anything can be an inappropriate innuendo if he reads it in this weird tone and pauses for effect. This goes on for way too long, and Gunter stops reading only occasionally to get pissy with some of his viewers in chat who start telling him this is getting boring and pointless after the first 10 minutes. Or when he loses his place somewhere because he's got 99 tabs open on his computer. Take a look.
From her point of view, the girl, Helen, had already found the companion for the next stage of her journey. Another trucker, tattooed hands, thick blonde handlebar mustache, a slightly too tight and definitely well-worn Marlboro t-shirt, and most egregiously, plastic truck stop sports sunglasses. It all came together in a perfect pastiche of middle American masculinity. It all ticked. It all fit. Let's keep going! He waited for her to continue. Once he realized she wasn't going to talk, he tried to interest her in some food. No period, by the way. Another grammar issue. You eating anything? Would you like a cookie? What kind? I don't know. It's got the cream stuff inside. Okay. She realized he wouldn't stop the car. Oh, wait. No, wrong one. That's for later. She could have almost been there by now, admittedly, had it not been for the conniving driver who she had left the truck stop restroom just in time to see driving off. No, actually, that's fine. I don't know why I pulled that one up. Because I'm a big John David Card fan, okay? Don't become the cringe? Fuck you. I'll be cringe all I want. I've earned this shit. You know how much shit that I've had to pour through for this?
I don't know exactly what Gunter is trying to accomplish here, but for what it's worth, there is absolutely nothing sexual in that novella. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I believe there's also absolutely no profanity in there. At all. Not even one of the milder cuss words. And the reason for that is, I knew my parents would naturally want to read a book I wrote, and I'm simply not going to hand them something I wrote with a dirty word in it. Anyway, I promise we're getting through this all bit by bit. I don't like this either, so I'll try doing this as quick as I can. As far as I can tell, from giving this live stream about as much attention as it actually warrants, after trying to imply there's something nefarious in my book, Gunter's last two major moves are to make a pair of accusations about me, both of which are false, and because I value your time, here's the quick explanation of what they are and then why they're bogus. And for context here, if you don't know, Kiwi Farms is an alt-right doxing website. So, next big accusation, Gunter accuses me of being a Kiwi Farms user. He does this principally by first opening up the site's Wikipedia article, reading it to the best of his ability.
Let's pull up the Wikipedia real quick. For those who don't know, for the uninitiated, Kiwi Farms, formerly known as CWCK Key Forums.
Then just pointing back at what he's read and going, look, Kiwi Farms is a bad website, and I bet Card uses it. Well, no. If you want an explicit denial of that accusation, consider this it. Gunter's supposed smoking gun here is that apparently I, and my highly leftist, openly queer, explicitly anti-reactionary YouTube videos have been mentioned by people over there. Not in any sort of positive light, I imagine, but Gunter wants to claim that I must be the person posting me on the alt-right doxing website for publicity reasons, I guess? Doesn't sound like a good plan to me. Now, at this point, I thought, are they really saying something about me over there? Because if so, I do kind of want to know what. So I googled Kiwi Farms, and I couldn't find it. And the URL website address wasn't on the Wikipedia page either, like I thought it probably would be. So I realized it's not around anymore. And I remembered, I think like a year ago now, that big lefty trans rights streamer Keffels did a whole campaign to get Kiwi Farms dropped by its internet provider or whatever. Alright, fair enough. I was going to look into Gunter's claims myself to see what he was talking about. But if Kiwi Farms is now gone, either completely gone or just off the normal Googleable internet, I can't do that. So I'm left to think that the only place Kiwi Farms might be is on some deep web darknet thing, if it's still around. And I'm not actually a super technical computers person, and I don't have any experience with the darknet, and I'm not particularly interested in figuring out what digital hoops you'd need to jump through to get there either. So, unable to check what he's talking about for myself, I'll respond to his claim by saying this. Either he has access to the site and has seen something nefarious, which he blames on me for some reason, then he's wrong in spreading a non-truth. Or he doesn't have access to the site, but he's still going to say he's seen something nefarious on there, which he blamed on me for some reason, in which case he's lying in a different way. I don't think I'd usually suspect the latter here, necessarily, but remember back at the start of the video, what feels like years now, I pointed out that Gunter just blatantly lied in saying he tried to contact me through 4chan. I reckon he says that sort of thing because he's got to know that most people who ever hear it in his audience won't probably know enough to know that doesn't make any sense. If Gunter wants to make the claim that I use Kiwi Farms, I know that specifically is a lie, since it's a claim about me, and therefore I know it's wrong. But if he makes just about any other claim about the site, I actually don't know enough about the place's functionality and stuff to say offhand what is and isn't theoretically possible on there. Still, either way, Gunter's sticking to his claim that I've been mentioned over there, and that, he says, is suspicious. Now, here's something I genuinely had to add to my script virtually at the last minute. I was jumping through the footage, trying to find a viable clip to use here. And you'll never believe what I inadvertently found. After Gunter makes all these accusations about me concerning Kiwi Farms, understandably, the viewers in his chat are just as confused as I was about all this, and someone asks him how he finds all this out if Kiwi Farms is such an evil place to be. And, distracted from whatever loose-weave script or plan he's probably running off, he answers the question in chat like this.
Not a super progressive place. I literally got linked to a Kiwi Farms thing as a result of like all of this stuff going on. So I logged in, not logged in. I don't have an account or nothing, but I opened the page for the first time today. And let me tell you guys something. Not a place I want to be. No thanks. No, I don't even frankly want it on my history that I was ever there. No thanks.
Now, it would appear that possibly Mr. Gunter just had a little Freudian slip here about using Kiwi Farms, which he immediately tries to distance himself from by all but going, actually, that website is my least favourite thing to do. That's the real beauty in the live stream format compared to pre-recorded video. You occasionally get little spoofs and goofs like that. Now, if I didn't already think Alec Gunter is a big fat liar who's perfectly willing to tell falsehoods to prop up a story and protect his own image, I'd honestly be perfectly willing not to interpret this slip-up uncharitably at all. But I did just watch this man expend half an hour trying to squeeze any drop of impropriety he could out of my bashful little novella like 20 minutes ago. So, my overwhelming instinct now is to throw an accusation back at him as readily as he throws them out. But I won't do that. I choose to take the high road. I will also again firmly reiterate my explicit rejection of the claim Gunter makes of me that I used the site, and I'm not going to say that his hilarious slip-up is proof that Alec Gunter secretly has a darknet Kiwi Farms account. I will leave that up to you, the viewer, to decide for yourself. All I will say is, you just know that if I had said that, and a clip existed of me accidentally admitting to using Kiwi Farms, Gunter's entire live stream would have just been 5 hours of that clip played on a loop, and he'd probably still be kvetching about it to this day. There's one last main thing Gunter mentions that I want to break down before I move into some more general closing thoughts. Interwoven with his Kiwi Farms accusations, Gunter occasionally flashes up a bunch of ostensibly real messages on screen, which are supposedly Discord messages from me to parties unknown. For context, Discord is an online web chatting service, essentially. Kind of like Skype plus a text chat for groups of people. Honestly, I'd be surprised if anyone watching this video doesn't know what Discord is, but I figured I might as well add the context here. Now, first things first, I do not use Discord publicly, so to speak. I do use it just to talk to a few friends. I do not participate in public servers. I do not, and would never, run a Discord server. If you ever see someone on Discord publicly claiming to be me, for some reason, that is not me. Once upon a time, I wouldn't have expected that it'd be a claim people out there would make, or something people would have been taken in by if they saw someone else making the claim that someone on Discord is me. But regular viewers of mine might remember the pink breakfast slop short video essay I did a while ago, and how I mentioned in that one, unfortunately people out there on the internet get really weird and parasocial over even the smallest, weirdest things. And nowadays, I wouldn't even be surprised if I found out someone was pretending to be me for some reason on the internet. Especially since I've started doing more and more of these YouTube videos. And frankly, I don't think anything good ever comes out of public Discord servers. Especially not the sort run by online personalities and their adjacent fan groups. I haven't been convinced they ever serve a good purpose, and under the best circumstances, it's not like they're particularly transparent or easy to hold accountable to any outside eyes. But just to reiterate, anyone claiming to be me online, or have zero provenance Discord screenshots claiming to be of me, is wrong. Again, consider this your explicit refutation if you need it. Now, the first time I watched Gunter start pulling these screenshots up on his livestream feed, supposedly of comments written by me, he claims they were sent to him by anonymous sources he can't reveal. And I wrote down on the little page of notes I was taking in preparation to eventually make this video, does he actually believe that that's true, or is this another willful lie? I remember my first thought was, the snappy, picture is worth 1,000 words way of demonstrating how dumb this sort of allegation is, would be to say, throw together a fake, real-looking screenshot purporting to show Alec Gunter confessing to something comedically untrue, like being the Lindbergh baby or having committed the Whitechapel killings. But I don't think he'd actually get the point. Maybe if I held up a manila envelope or something stuffed with paper and said, hey, these are my sources which say you've done something bad. And no, I can't show them to you, but I promise they're real. Like, seriously, what the fuck is he doing at this point? But here's the thing, bear with me for a moment. I know he's been lying about just about everything else so far, but I would possibly be willing to have believed at least the claim that supposed sources have tried to reach out to him. Why? Because shortly after the time Gunter made his second video about me, I got a couple emails at my public contact email address making a bunch of allegations about him. Saying stuff like, Gunter's a well-known creep in such and such a city, and he got expelled from a local convention or two for being inappropriate, etc., etc. And you know what I did with those emails? I ignored them, because if there's troublemakers out there who find two YouTube people making videos back and forth, maybe they'll try and throw some petrol on the fire and hand each side a bunch of rumors and stuff they hope will make them fight more. And I, for one, am not dumb enough to believe that the unsolicited emails I get regarding drama I'm having with someone else are real. I mean, having seen how much he casually lies, though, and what he really thinks about trans people in bathrooms, and having been on the receiving end of his entitled demanding emails myself now, I can say it's definitely plausible that Gunter is a pretty unpleasant person in his day-to-day life. But I'm not necessarily just going to believe specific claims made about him because an anonymous message I get says so. But if I can speculate a little here, I think Gunter did actually get contacted in some way, basically the same way I did. And he was probably given a bunch of unsubstantiatable nonsense. Then he decided to throw that in to his big smearing me live stream, alongside directing people to outlets that I've worked for and weirdly reading my book and everything else he's doing here. Either because he thought it sounded convincing enough for his audience, or because he himself was also fooled by it. And frankly, even if a bunch of online trolls trick you into thinking some false allegations about someone else are true, once you broadcast them to your very engaged 10,000 plus subscribers, no less, I don't care if you've been tricked, you too are now responsible for the claims you broadcast. And you certainly can't just go around making allegations about people you don't like because of your personal grievance, Gunter. But, speaking of really dumb claims, we're getting right to the very end of Gunter's live stream here. And he goes in for a real big final claim to cap things off. I don't know if this was emailed to him, or if he's made it up himself. I'm just going to let a clip play for itself in a second, and steel yourself for what is about to come. In closing, Gunter repeats the Fox News transphobic trope and calls me a groomer. Then, while swearing his dislike for me isn't just personal, he has to fight back how definitely not mad he is about being made to look dumb in my other videos, he concludes by saying that I want to start or run a trans sex cult. Here's the clip. This is how Gunter's stream ends.
So what does this all boil down to, folks? Well, I have a theory, and I think it's a very good one. I think that John David Card is a groomer. I think that he is attempting to start his own cult of supporters, largely trans supporters, right? I think that he wants to build up an audience of trans people that he can then manipulate, take advantage of, and perhaps even in a sexual way. And so that's why I feel this is not personal. It is a little personal, but the main point of this is not personal. I do not want shitheads like this infiltrating our good leftist space. No. Cast you out into the cold, my friend. None of that here. You're a piece of shit. I hate you. And you shouldn't have called me a fucking slackjaw, dumbass. And that's that.
What can you even really say to stuff like this? This live stream started under the premise of some people make the online left look bad because of their appearance, and we need to remove those people from our communities. And it ended with Gunter going, this individual is a crypto bathroom pronouns groomer who wants to make people trans for sex cult reasons. But he's not mad about it, though. He swears he's not mad about it. Well, damn, dude, you caught me. I was all ready to move to Guyana with my harem of gender people and then start dishing out the cyanide-flavored Kool-Aid. Now I'll never get to do that, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that bold, bumbling moron who blew the whole operation wide open. let's just take this sentiment of his seriously for even a second. Do I want to start a trans sex cult with my subscribers? I'm going to answer again with an explicit no. In fact, I'll use right now as the perfect place to say I am 100% against the idea of anyone who watches my content having any emotional investment in me whatsoever. I don't want to so much as meet up with my viewers. I don't get into conversations with my viewers in the comments section below my videos or elsewhere. I don't like the idea of ever even signing up for a service like Patreon because I don't like the idea of even taking money from my viewers. I think if you want to make videos as a hobby, you should keep it just that, a fun hobby, not a job or something you aspire to make yourself rich off of. Frankly, observant listeners might even have picked up from the way I introduce myself every video, I don't even think my viewers should be on a first-name basis with me. Apologies to anyone who might have hoped otherwise, but I have no interest in starting a cult. Thank you very much. So, we're done analysing Gunter's video now. And I, for one, wasn't swayed by it. But I just wanted to add some thoughts of my own. Let's just sum up first. Back in January this year, Alec Gunter found a video of mine talking about reactionary political dog whistles. Since he aspires to be a Vaush or Hassan Piker style daily live streamer, he decided to do a commentary watch of my video. But because he's just generally pretty dumb, he got a lot of stuff wrong and he needlessly attacked me personally a lot during it, and decided to make me the face of what he describes as the lefties who are too weird about stuff. Then, I made a fairly good-hearted response to his stream, explaining in detail why he was wrong, and why I don't think he was right to call me a snowflake who can't stand up for myself. And Gunter got so fucking mad about this. His ego was bruised, and he can't let a damn thing go. That here we are, maybe 8-9 weeks later now, and I need to defend myself from his spurious accusations that I want to start a sex cult with my viewers. Alec Gunter is a fucking joke. A slack-jawed moron of the highest caliber. And I've got this entire live stream of his I can point to show it. I would have just said, go watch the original VOD of the thing yourself if you want to see that. But, as I alluded to earlier, the reason I have this recording is only because of a kind stranger who got in touch and sent me a backup link to it. Many thanks to them. Gunter has, since posting this, actually removed his proper original version of this stream from his own page, and I highly doubt we'll ever get the original recording back. At the moment, what is up on his page is a highly cut down version of the same stream, where Gunter has attempted to remove all his dumbest moments and cover up his little slips and blunders, like where he accidentally said he uses kiwi farms, or when he starts arguing with his audience halfway through reading the book. The reason it's gone is probably just because he evidently eventually sobered up and realised how deranged he came across in most of that stream. Or maybe he just wanted to cover his own tracks a little. See, remember right at the start of the vid where I showed how Gunter went out of his way to tell his audience about my contact info and my social media and a paper I worked for, and explained how it's pretty regular for Alec to try and sick his fans on targets he doesn't like? Well, we know Gunter knows his audience is really engaged and active, and we also know he's got a bit over 10,000 subscribers now. How much of his audience do you think have sent me annoying and spammy and sometimes downright threatening emails in the past few weeks? Maybe 1%, 2%, a little bit more? Well, the last few weeks I have received hundreds, literally hundreds, a triple-digit figure amount, of emails all of a sudden. Some of which are pretty explicitly violent too. I wonder why. Let's not mince words or play silly buggers here. This is because of Alec Gunter. I am still, to this day, receiving anonymous death threats via email because of Alec Gunter. Alec Gunter is harassing me now. He may not physically be the person hitting the send button on the other end every time, but when you do everything in your power you can to tell your audience of 10,000 that here is someone you don't like and they have a contact email, you bear significant culpability for what they do. Another thing I want to touch on before I close out for good, the structural nature of the sort of claims and accusations Gunter makes about me. His approach is very throw a lot of shit at a wall and see what sticks. Nothing about what he says is substantial at all. And it's not like he's even responding to a video of mine or something like that at this point either. He's just gesturing towards either stuff that is mine, like my writing at that online paper, or my book, and then trying to imply there's something wrong there. Or else he's got a bunch of stuff totally unrelated to me, and completely making up claims about cults and acting hysterical about it. I just want to point out, I've been talking about Gunter today for a while now. And I've had to respond to him before too. And every time I do, including through all of today's videos, my only sources are his videos about me and now the emails he sent me. See, with something like a big refutation of someone's claims in, say, a YouTube video or a live stream, at no point should you need to bring out a bunch of unrelated material, like a place they work, or especially one they've never mentioned online before, or a novella they wrote years ago which is entirely unrelated to the topic at hand, or even something like a bunch of anonymously sourced Discord messages you claim are real and were suddenly passed along to you by persons you can't name after you started having beef with someone else. For example, I'm doing this big long video explaining why Alec Gunter is wrong and how his followers have been harassing me, and at no point whatsoever while putting together the script for this video or recording it and editing it, at no point would I ever think it's a productive or remotely good idea to try and figure out where he worked or where he lived or if any of his old works are somewhere online so I can publicize those things. What Gunter does to try and attack me, making all this stuff up, is not something a mentally well person who isn't acting out of a weird, obsessive internet vendetta fantasy would ever do. What Gunter is doing is kind of like LARPing as an investigator. He's pretending that what he's doing here, to smear someone with nonsense while not saying anything of substance, is essentially what investigative journalism is. I wouldn't necessarily want to toot my own horn here, but since it's out in the public now anyway, let's just take a real quick look at the paper I've written for. Bear with me. Gunter might actually have learnt a thing or two if he'd taken a look at the sort of thing I wrote over there, like this second most recent piece of mine. It's largely about the fact that this really big, heavily trafficked construction site right in the middle of our state capital had this massive, dangerous, 40-foot deep open shaft right in the middle of it, without even any safety fencing or supports or anything around it. That 40-foot hole shouldn't have been there. The bosses didn't know it was there, the government didn't know it was there, and the workers had been prevented from reporting it by the site representatives the bosses had brought in. So it was just this big hazard all the construction workers there had to literally sidestep around. And it's so deep that, God forbid, if a worker or pedestrian accidentally walked in, or the sides collapsed and took out a part of the street with it, people could die. And the actual mainstream news here and the current affairs programs and such that film here hadn't noticed it either. So I wrote this piece and got my facts together and checked my sources and put a set of photos together and sent it into my editor. And the final product of this article is basically me saying, hey, I've noticed a giant fuck-off hole right next to the footpath on Albert Street that's been there for a while at that site that I know has had major accidents before. Maybe someone should do something about it. Now, I'm no Woodward or Bernstein, but that's what actual real-world investigative journalism looks like, by the way. It's not just saying a bunch of crap online into your webcam. Now, absolute final thing I want to get into today. Just something to keep in mind going forward. I think it's pretty clear that Alec Gunter doesn't actually have any real values. He's not a committed political organizer or community activist or anything. He just wants to run an internet drama content mill, where one day he can slap my name and face on a video called Crazy Bread Tuber Exposed, and he calls me a cult leader. Then the next day he's found a new target who's the new worst person online ever. Then the day after that he's talking about iDubbbz being cringe or whatever, because Gunter's got to have a new internet drama to chase every day if he wants to be a real big boy streamer one day. It's why Gunter goes out of his way to throw himself in front of any spotlight he can. Like he'll sign up to be the laughing stock on some BuzzFeed-esque political debate panel, or try and get an epic debate in on Matt Walsh's speaking tour or whatever. And something else I picked up on from now having seen a few Alec Gunter videos, he does the classic dumb guy move of trying to insult you while being really inconsistent about it. Because he's, genuinely so low IQ and in such a rush to do his debate bro epic verbal takedown shit, he becomes truly incapable of properly articulating a real critique of somebody. Because he's just reaching for whatever words he can think of, regardless of whether or not they're apt or not. Like when he flip-flops between calling me a woke-scold lib and being a secret sex cultist. Or, in his very first video about me, if you saw it or my response to it, you might have noticed he keeps alternating between making fun of my voice and how I speak by calling me snobbish or stuck up. Then he turns around and belittles me for the, let's say, rusticness of everything visible behind me. He doesn't realize that calling someone really pretentious and then making a veiled jab about how homespun their place is isn't actually a coherent, consistent thought. I also just wanted to note, I think it's just so weird that someone would ever call me a snob. Presumably it's just because, to Gunter, the fact I try to enunciate my words correctly is a sign I'm trying to lord myself over him. But for what it's worth, I grew up really poor in a dilapidated town of about 200 people. That's where I spent my first 20-odd years. I always had at least one job since I was a teenager, just trying to help my family, and I'm a big believer in trying to pull my weight. Then I did university, mostly long distance, got my bachelor's degree, then a master's degree. Now I'm seriously looking at PhD track maybe. It just feels so surreal to get called a snob or pretentious, honestly. Anyway, Gunter tries to make fun of me over my background set here, which for the record isn't actually a shed like I see a lot of people in my comments assume. It's one of the rooms in a little cabin I built, and I for one think it's a real comfy place to film my videos. Gunter thinks it makes me look serial killerish for some reason, whatever that's meant to mean. That's the line he's been using since his first video on me. I guess when I made this place and decided to record videos in here, I just plumb didn't account for the fact that apparently some city slickers are just genuinely scared of exposed timber. Then we get stuff like where Gunter really obviously cynically changes around his messaging, trying to angle for a sympathetic reaction from situation to situation. Like, for instance, when he started out emailing me with polite requests to reconcile, then 2 days later it's threats. Or, I remember in his first video, again, he made a big point of calling me soft and saying I look like I couldn't take a metaphorical punch, as in I'd get offended over stuff too easily.
He comes off like a shrill, streaking liberal. It's too liberal for me. It's too libby. Gross. I don't want to coalition build with this asshole because he's probably, like, I don't know for sure, but based on this video, the impression I'm getting is that this guy cannot take a punch, metaphorically, okay? Like, he just can't.
Then, in his second video, I made a joke to the effect of actually, I can banter with the best of them. That's why I'd call you a soy new male if I thought you'd understand it's meant to be derogatory. If you were more familiar with reactionary online terminology, you might know this all forms an archetype that a lot of people call the soy new male bugman.
What? Huh? How does he know that? What circles is he hanging out in? I don't know any of that.
Thankfully, though, you're pretty ignorant about this kind of stuff, so you won't know it's meant to be derogatory. A good bit. I'm still happy with it. And I'd be willing to bet Gunter isn't actually offended by hearing that. After all, he's a man who stridently tells others they need to take a joke and roll with the punches. But he's happy to pretend he's been really offended by this. That's why he leaves this postscript pinned comment. Card posting went after my appearance and intelligence, quite literally using what he calls far-right dog whistles to describe me, the effort put into my content, which implicates both my efforts and those of my editor and my entire audience. Right there, dude is pretending to be really offended to, I guess, try and get some sympathy, even though his whole thing is supposed to be not being a little bitch when someone banters back. But, without a shadow of doubt in my mind, he is Mr. Gunter's single biggest hypocrisy. Surely, anyone watching this video will recall when, in my prior video on the subject, I made the observation that Gunter was clearly just trying to style himself off of the likes of Vaush and the other big left-of-center YouTube streamers. When I said that, Gunter jumped up with a start, because he heard the name Vaush and evidently didn't quite understand the rest of the sentence, because he seems to have thought that I attacked Vaush there in making the comparison, and also that doing so is some horrible transgression of mine. Just in case you don't recall, here's the clip. Do we really need another one of these dime-a-dozen wannabe Vaush clones?
Yes! Yes, there it is, boys! He's a Vaush hater! Yes! Every time! Every time! We got it, boys. Let's go.
The one is already more than plenty.
VDS is strong and kicking.
Do you want to bring to the
Vaush bad! Vaush bad!
Now, at the time, I thought it was just funny to make fun of the fact that Gunter here demonstrates the media literacy and critical thinking skills of one of Pavlov's dogs. Alec Gunter will not abide a single negative word said about his idol, Vaush. He doesn't even like it if he incorrectly thinks he heard you say a bad word about his idol, Vaush. And let's not forget, the entire reason Gunter ostensibly originally wanted to criticize the Dog Whistles videos of mine is because he found me in my rustic cabin explaining how to spot reactionary memes to my typical viewership in the low to middling hundreds to be a case of bad optics that should be exorcised from the online left community. That is Alec Gunter's original complaint regarding me, remember? Somehow, me, some random Australian he's never met, explaining that the alt-right likes dumb frog memes to maybe 300 people, is a threat to the left's political agenda, which again, in his mind, might just be getting state-level Democrats elected. I thought it would be far too delicious of an irony to pass up on pointing out that Shortly after Alec Gunter does his 5-hour-long live stream, I believe possibly even later the same day, the very same Vaush he idolizes has the biggest critical optics fail of his career. Just in case you don't know what I'm alluding to here, Vaush is a very popular online streamer. He's very online, not the greatest politics necessarily, but still broadly left. But a lot of people have long pointed out that he comes across kind of gross sometimes, personality-wise. A little while ago, while streaming, he inadvertently opened a folder on his computer showing some, I believe it was borderline underage and likely bestiality adjacent cartoon pornography. I don't think anyone should really have that sort of stuff. You just shouldn't want to consume it, for one thing. But arguing the morality of the incident itself is outside the scope of this video. The point is, all that happening immediately had so many people online pointing out the obvious. That this is arguably the single worst PR disaster a real big online leftist personality has ever had. I wonder if Alec Gunter thinks that having a bunch of underage cartoon porno on your computer and showing it on live stream, and then having the clip of you doing that shown to tens of millions of people all over the internet, is that a bad look for the left? Is that something he should care about? Personally, I don't actually even think it is. I'm not trying to run Vaush apologia here, I promise, but I'm going to stick by my initial assertion that actually, for better or worse, nothing that happens online matters in the real world. But still, Gunter thinks it does, so it's weird we never got his thoughts on it, huh? He's a really big Vaush fan, so he must have heard about it, and he's so eager to hop on every online drama trend, and he just thinks optics are so important. Why did we never get a Gunter video calling that out? That brings me to my final dozen paragraphs here. At long last. Why did I go to the trouble of making this video? Well, contrary to how Gunter characterizes me, I'm not meek. I will always stand up for myself. I can take a verbal punch and give just as good as I get. I just wanted to show exactly how much of a two-faced little slime ball Alec Gunter is. He lies to the people he corresponds with. He lies to his audience about things he has to assume they won't know enough about to call him out. He starts fights with significantly smaller channels here on YouTube, then runs off crying to play the victim when they show he's a dullard in response. He has his audience target people he doesn't like for harassment. And we can all laugh at his really dumb claims, like that I'm some sort of aspiring cult leader, but let's not forget, during that whole live stream we went down, how many times he repeats a Fox News talking point about trans bathroom groomers. This man is supposedly trying to be a left-wing voice online. I think he just wants an internet media career doing drama streams where he calls people groomers. And he just got all pissy once because I was a target of his, not afraid to bite back. At least in the process of responding to him, I might have wasted a few hours here tonight, although along the way we did get to discover that being called a slackjaw is apparently his trigger phrase, so that's something. But now, for the first time in this video, I'm going to address Mr. Gunter directly, because we all know he is definitely the sort of egotist to be watching this thing all the way through as soon as it comes out. Alec, the single biggest testament to the fact you're really dumb is actually how you went after me. Like I mentioned right at the start of the video, getting all your little guys to try and spam out my email under the pretense of gotta gatekeep for optics or whatever, because that shows me that you haven't taken on board the one thing I keep repeating the most. The bullshit you or anyone does online does not make an iota of difference to the world. I told you like 1 minute into my first response video that nothing that happens online is real life organizing. A couple days after your live stream, I wake up, check my email, 200 new messages, most of which are threatening, and curiously, a lot were transphobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and you know what I did? I just basically ignored them. Not even the most over-the-top, outlandish so-called expose video, or you getting your followers to spam my email and social media, is going to force me to stop making videos, is it? Now, I'm just a simple country hobbyist videographer who films on my phone in my spare time. I get maybe a few hundred views on a video if it's popular. I've only got a fraction of the viewers, subscribers, or the fancy gear you have, Alec. Yet I'm still stuck in your fucking craw because I called you dumb one time. And there's nothing you can do from that seat of your American-sized gamer chair that can stop me from making the videos I want to make. You got angry, you sent me a bunch of emails personally, kind of inappropriate, but whatever. Then you lied repeatedly about how you contacted me to your audience, claiming you reached out via Instagram and fucking 4chan for some reason. Then you do a marathon live stream calling me every single name in the book, throwing accusations around willy-nilly, practically taking yourself well past the point of parody by the end of it all. And you do it all because you claim some hobbyist channel with a fraction of your viewership is a threat to the left's optics, and this supposedly justifies your insane crusade against me. I simply don't buy it. And you know, after having now heard all your criticism, having thought about it for a bit, I think I'm gonna keep doing those Dog Whistle 101 videos actually. I think they're helpful and instructive. And you can't live stream expose me out of doing them either. Little thought experiment. If you got the top 100 YouTube personalities all together, and you coordinated to have them all release insane 5-hour-long hit pieces on me simultaneously to their collective hundreds of millions of fans, I still wouldn't be compelled to stop doing my videos, would I? I'm certainly not going to do it just because some pissant debate bro who is forever chasing relevance in the drama sphere doesn't like me. And I really think about the content of this video. I haven't gone digging around trying to find your employer or making fun of your old content or anything like that, because that's not something a normal, well-adjusted person would do. All I've done is merely explain in simple, factual terms how you've lied to me and about me for the past few weeks, and I've played some footage of you being obsessive, being weird, being insane while shit-talking me online. Gunter, in the first video I addressed to you, I politely suggested you take a step back from YouTube for a bit, because I could see that in your haste to climb aboard that content train, you are making sloppy, dumb, needless mistakes. After seeing the mess of a live stream about me you hacked up most recently, my earnest recommendation would be that you should give all this up for a good long while. Because even before I got up to the bathroom groomer and cultist remarks, I could tell you're clearly starting to fucking lose it, dude. Seriously, take a month or two off for your own sake. While you're at it, I recommend you go read Moby Dick by Herman Melville. You can easily get it free online, and there's a really good lesson in there about monomaniacal obsession you could benefit from hearing. Plus, at your reading level, it should keep you occupied for at least a couple months, so don't say I never give you any good advice. And Gunter, if you make a response to this video, I'm not going to respond back. I'm not even going to watch it, because your little obsession with me should not be encouraged in the slightest. Our interaction ends permanently at the end of this sentence. Now, if you're just a regular viewer of mine who's inexplicably made it this far, apologies for the awfully long video here. Apart from this, I ought to be uploading the next few proper new videos I wanted to do very, very soon. Then after that, I may or may not end up doing more up until around July, in which case they'll only be released irregularly if I indeed do upload any at all. Otherwise, if all goes well, I have big plans for the third quarter of this year that I hope to reveal when the time is right. That's everything I have to say today. Once again, my name's Card. Goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.